Stand up, Roman.
What?
Listen to me. You don't let me out of here, I'm gonna kill you.
Killing all you Wayne. I got your address, Wayne Merrick. I got your home address.
Courtrooms are meant for justice, but sometimes they turn into scenes of chaos where defendants lose control. From death threats to physical attacks, it's shocking what people will do right in front of a judge. But what happens when the courtroom itself becomes a battleground? Case number 1, Sean Riker, a man on the edge.
You're gonna sentence me to life? Don't give a Don't give a I'm getting mine, you
Sean Riker's courtroom outburst was as shocking as his long criminal record. A man convicted of 16 heinous crimes against his family, ranging from child sexual assault to reckless endangerment, Riker came into his pre-sentencing hearing ready to unleash. This wasn't just another convicted felon pleading for mercy. Instead, he arrived in court with a spit mask, shackles, and an attitude of utter defiance. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Riker, who had already served 12 years in federal prison for detonating pipe bombs in Utah, had no intention of going down quietly. At this point, what did he have to lose? He'd escaped from jail once before, and he wasn't about to cooperate now. As soon as he entered the courtroom, he went straight for Judge Wayne Merrick. "You're gonna sentence me to life," he yelled. "I don't give a
You're gonna sentence me to life? Don't give a Don't give a I'm getting mine, you
His verbal tirade didn't end there. Riker took things to a terrifying level, directly threatening the judge and members of the prosecution team, saying, "I've got your address, Wayne Merrick. I'm having you all killed."
I got address. I got address. And I'm having you all killed.
You can imagine the collective breath the courtroom took at that moment. This wasn't an idle threat. Given Riker's criminal past and his escape history, these threats carried a chilling sense of reality. What made Riker even more dangerous was his sense of invincibility. "This is a state without the death penalty," he screamed, making it clear that he didn't fear the consequences.
State that doesn't have the death penalty. You're gonna sentence me to life? Don't give a Don't give a
This was a man with nothing left to lose and plenty of anger to share. His threats went beyond typical courtroom outbursts. They were calculated, personal, and specific. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about making sure everyone in that courtroom knew he had the power to hurt them, even from inside a prison cell. In the end, despite his threatening behavior, the legal system prevailed. Riker was sentenced to 200 years in prison, ensuring he would never see the outside world again. Interestingly, he didn't even bother showing up for his sentencing. Perhaps he knew it was over, or maybe he preferred to skip the formality of it all. Either way, his appeal was denied, and Sean Riker now spends his days behind bars, far away from those he terrorized in that Wisconsin courtroom. Case number 2, Bryce Rhodes, murderer with a vengeance.
I'm gonna keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
What you think where you live at? What you think at?
Bryce Rhodes is a name that will make anyone uncomfortable. Charged with the brutal murders of 3 people, including 2 teenage boys, Rhodes' court appearances are nothing short of terrifying. His violent and erratic behavior both inside and outside the courtroom has made him infamous in Louisville, Kentucky. When Rhodes enters the courtroom, it's not your typical scene. He's brought in wearing full restraints and a spit mask, a clear indication that court security isn't taking any chances with him. This isn't a man to be underestimated. Rhodes has been volatile since his arrest. His behavior during court appearances ranges from aggressive to outright threatening.
I'm gonna keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
What you think where you live at? What you think at?
So you're saying you're gonna find out where I'm out?
None of that. You got family, I'll be out.
During one particularly intense bond hearing, Rhodes turned his rage directly toward the judge, saying, "I'll find where you live." That's not something you hear every day in a courtroom, but with Rhodes, it was par for the course. The fact that he's facing charges for such serious crimes makes these threats even more chilling. When someone who has already been accused of murder threatens a judge, you have to take it seriously.
So you're saying you're gonna find out where I'm out?
None of that. You got family, I'll be out.
His outbursts didn't just stop at verbal threats. Rhodes' physical behavior has been so unpredictable that the court had no choice but to keep him in full restraints, even during hearings. His threats, however, weren't just dismissed as courtroom theatrics. The prosecutor quickly added new charges, including terroristic threatening and intimidating a participant in the legal process.
You've been charged with assault in the 4th degree, minor injury, terroristic threatening in the 3rd degree with physical contact. New charges. I'm entering a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Would you?
At this point, it seems like Rhodes is determined to make things worse for himself, as if the murder charges weren't enough. What's so terrifying about Rhodes isn't just the crimes he's been accused of, but his complete disregard for the legal process. It's as if he thrives on the chaos he creates in court, feeding off the fear he instills in others. Each time he steps into the courtroom, it's a waiting game to see what he'll do next. Will he lash out at the judge again? Will he threaten someone else? Case number 3, Tobias Giggles Roman. Laughing isn't his strong suit.
Stand up.
My foot hurts. I can't stand up right now. In my right knee.
Stand up, Roman.
Man, I swear.
Tobias Roman, known by his street name Giggles, faced the courtroom in Bakersfield, California, not with remorse, but with defiance. Roman, charged with several serious crimes, including attempted robbery and threatening with intent to terrorize, didn't seem to take the proceedings seriously at all. Right from the start, his attitude was confrontational and mocking, setting the stage for what would be a chaotic hearing. When Roman was brought into court, he made it clear that he wasn't going to play by the rules. Standing in front of Judge Charles Bramer, instead of respectfully answering basic procedural questions, Roman interrupted, mocked, and generally made a spectacle of himself. The judge warned him several times to quiet down, but Roman wasn't having it.
It's all right. It's all right.
Hey, Mr. Roman, you need to be quiet.
Yeah, you need to be quiet.
Even after being told to be silent, Roman continued with his disrespectful behavior, forcing the judge to issue one final warning.
You got one more chance and then you're going to be removed from the courtroom.
But as Roman was being led out of the courtroom, the real threat came. He turned to the judge and, in a chilling moment, said, "I'll murder you if I see you."
I'll murder you when I see you.
For a guy with the nickname Giggles, there was nothing funny about that statement. The courtroom, which had already been on edge due to his erratic behavior, fell silent. Threatening a public official, especially a judge, is a serious crime. And Roman's comment immediately became part of the official record. Judge Bramer, remaining calm but stern, made sure that Roman's threat didn't go unnoticed, requesting law enforcement to take the necessary steps. In the end, Roman's behavior didn't do him any favors. He pled no contest to the charge of threatening a public official, and as a result, he was sentenced to 8 months in prison. While the other charges against him, including attempted robbery, were dropped, the seriousness of his courtroom threats landed him behind bars. What started as an arraignment for his previous crimes turned into a clear lesson that disrespecting the court can lead to even more time in prison. Case number 4. Juan Rodriguez, the hangry defendant.
This guy can only be there when I talk to you.
Oh, it was him. I thought it was the public defender.
No, I don't need it.
Juan Rodriguez's courtroom drama in Miami-Dade County, Florida, wasn't your typical pretrial hearing. Rodriguez was facing serious charges, attempted murder and aggravated battery. But what really set him off that day wasn't the severity of his case. Instead, it was something entirely unexpected. He was upset about missing the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah.
I'm done. Now let's eat breakfast. The drama's cooking.
Rodriguez appeared remotely for his hearing before Judge Beatrice Buchko, already agitated and demanding that things be done his way. From the moment the hearing started, you could sense his frustration. He didn't want certain people in the room when he spoke, and it was clear that things were about to escalate.
This guy can only be there when I talk to you.
Oh, it was him. I thought it was the public defender.
No, I don't need it.
His mood went from bad to worse, though, when he realized that being in jail meant missing the holiday meal, which in his mind was a big enough reason to lash out.
I'm done. Now let's eat breakfast. The drama's cooking.
As the hearing progressed, Rodriguez became increasingly hostile. His anger boiled over, and in a fit of rage, he threatened Judge Buchko directly. "I'm gonna kill you if you don't let me out," he said, his voice filled with frustration.
Listen to me. You don't let me out of here, I'm gonna kill you.
For Rodriguez, the fact that he was missing out on apples, honey, and the traditional Rosh Hashanah meal was enough to provoke this intense reaction. It's a strange reason to lose your cool, but in Rodriguez's mind, it was the final straw. Judge Buchko, however, wasn't fazed. She calmly brushed off his threats and proceeded with the hearing without missing a beat. Despite his outburst, she made her ruling. Probable cause was found, and Rodriguez was to be held without bond. In other words, not only would he miss Rosh Hashanah, but he wouldn't be getting out anytime soon. Case number 5, Callan Wood, punches, threats, and a new charge. Callan Wood's courtroom behavior in Dayton, Ohio was anything but typical. Wood, originally in court facing domestic violence charges, decided to take things up a notch, and it didn't end well for her. It's one thing to stand before a judge in a pretrial hearing, but it's another thing entirely to physically attack your own lawyer and then threaten to kill a magistrate on your way out. The drama unfolded when Wood, clearly agitated, stood next to her public defender during the hearing. As proceedings moved along, Wood suddenly requested a new attorney, and when her request was granted, you might think that would be the end of it. But no, on her way out, instead of leaving peacefully, she sucker punched her public defender. The room must have erupted into chaos as court officers rushed to restrain her, but Wood wasn't done. As she was being led away, she directed her fury toward the magistrate, screaming threats of violence. "I'm gonna kill you," she shouted. This kind of behavior is enough to leave anyone speechless. Punching your own lawyer in court while surrounded by security? That's bold to say the least. And threatening the magistrate on top of that? It's as if Wood was trying to rack up charges. Unsurprisingly, her actions didn't go unnoticed. She was immediately slapped with new charges for intimidation, misdemeanor assault, and retaliation, all on top of the original domestic violence charge that had brought her to court in the first place. The court wasn't about to let her off easy, and her behavior during the hearing made it clear that this was someone who wasn't going to cooperate. In the end, Callan Wood was sentenced to 5 years of probation, but she got lucky considering her courtroom outburst. Although the domestic violence charges were dismissed, the additional charges related to her attack on the public defender and threats against the magistrate stuck. Her outburst serves as a reminder that in the courtroom, losing your cool comes with real consequences. What could have been a standard hearing quickly spiraled into a legal disaster for Wood, and she's now paying the price for letting her temper get the best of her. Case number 6, Michael Ray, laughing at the law.
Your Honor, the county's requesting $25,000 full cash behind all charges.
You think that's funny?
I think that's hilarious.
We weren't done.
Michael Ray's courtroom behavior in Louisville, Kentucky, was a textbook case of what not to do during a bond hearing. Ray, facing serious charges, including criminal trespassing and second-degree assault, didn't seem to grasp the gravity of his situation. When the prosecutor requested a $25,000 bond, Ray didn't react with the usual seriousness. Instead, he found the whole thing amusing.
Your Honor, the county's requesting $25,000 full cash behind all charges.
You think that's funny?
I think that's hilarious.
Laughing, mocking, and sarcastically responding to the judge, his behavior turned what should have been a straightforward hearing into a circus. Judge Smith, presiding over the case, was not amused by Ray's flippant attitude. While Ray might have thought his sarcastic comments were clever, the judge was having none of it. After Ray's inappropriate remarks, the judge doubled his bond to $50,000.
All right, so bond is $50,000.
Now, most defendants would take that as a hint to quiet down and take things seriously, but not Ray. As he was being escorted out of the courtroom, Ray took things to a whole new level by flipping off the judge. That was the final straw.
Your Honor, I think we need to...
Yeah.
The moment Ray made that gesture, Judge Smith didn't hesitate to hold him in contempt of court. His bond was doubled, and additional charges started piling up. What began as 4 relatively serious charges soon ballooned into 10, including contempt of court and terroristic threatening. It's amazing how quickly things escalated, all because Ray couldn't resist mocking the legal process. What's fascinating, and maybe a little tragic about Ray's situation, is how easily he could have avoided this. If he had just kept his mouth shut and cooperated, his bond hearing would have been over in a matter of minutes. But instead, his sarcasm and disrespect turned a manageable legal situation into something much worse. By the end of the hearing, Ray's list of charges had grown significantly, and he found himself facing much more jail time than he probably anticipated. Case number 7, Roger Hathaway, a failed escape. Roger Hathaway's courtroom antics in Franklin, Tennessee, are a classic example of how things can spiral out of control when emotions run high. Already facing charges for drug possession, assault, and evading arrest, Hathaway's day in court was far from smooth. What could have been a standard hearing turned into a full-blown fiasco, complete with shouting, accusations, and a failed attempt at escaping the courtroom. Hathaway was brought in for an update on his case, which included charges for possession of Schedule II drugs, possession of a firearm with intent to go armed, and assault. As if his criminal history wasn't enough, Hathaway seemed to believe that causing a scene in the courtroom was the best way to prove his innocence, or at least vent his frustrations. From the moment the proceedings began, Hathaway loudly accused the officers involved in his case of lying and violating his rights. His shouting and constant interruptions disrupted the court, making it impossible for Judge Michael Binkley to proceed normally. At one point, Hathaway's outburst became too much to handle, and Judge Binkley had had enough. The judge ordered Hathaway to be removed from the courtroom so the hearing could continue without further disruption. But instead of quietly accepting his removal, Hathaway decided to take things into his own hands, literally. As the deputies began to escort him out, Hathaway made a run for it, bolting toward the door in a desperate attempt to escape. Of course, his escape plan didn't go as smoothly as he might have hoped. The courtroom deputies were quick to react, tackling Hathaway before he could get far. The scuffle that followed was dramatic, to say the least. Public defender Richard Strong was knocked into the rail during the melee, and he even fell to the floor from the force of the struggle. Meanwhile, the courtroom spectators scrambled out of the way, unsure of what would happen next. It took several deputies to subdue Hathaway, and after a few tense moments, they were able to get him back under control. The result of this failed escape, Hathaway was not only held in contempt of court, but also slapped with additional charges of resisting arrest and assault on a public servant. His original charges for drug possession and assault were serious enough, but his courtroom behavior that day ensured that he'd be spending even more time dealing with the legal system. Despite his attempts to fight the system, Hathaway's outburst only made things worse for him, and he now faces a longer road ahead in the justice system. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.